For this practice exercise, we're going to be using geometric shapes and repeating strokes to create a different kind of typeface. I'm in Illustrator and I'm in my Essentials workspace. I'm also going to change my toolbars from basic to advanced. I'll be using some simple tools today. We'll start with the Polar Grid tool, which will allow us to create concentric circles. Now, as you draw with the Polar Grid tool, you can use both hands. I'm holding my mouse down while drawing this, and then the up and down keys on your keyboard will increase or decrease the number of concentric circles. Now, you can have as many or as few concentric circles as you like. This looks pretty good. 5 concentric circles. Hold Shift to get a perfect circle. Release my mouse, and we'll start with this. Now, before I move on, because I'm going to be editing these paths, I am going to duplicate this group. So Option click drag release or Command C, Command V. And in my window menu, I'm going to open up my layers. And I like to use my layers to assist me with navigation. So you can see in the layers window, that this tool created a group. Okay. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this group and we're going to create a vertical line using my line segment tool. A vertical line that attaches to the anchor point on the left side of this circle and is tall enough that it crosses over all of the concentric circles. And what we're going to do here is we are going to take our selection tool, just move this real quick, and I am going to cut the anchor point over here. And visually, my view has perhaps changed when I updated this. So let me see if I can make sure my anchors show. Okay. Well, that's kind of fun. There we go. So I'll use my direct selection tool so I can see this. And what I'll do is press C to access my cut tool or trim tool, and C, and then I will click on this anchor point and I will trim it, which is very, very hard to see. I'll zoom in here and I'm just going to navigate just above this anchor point a tiny, tiny bit and trim again. So now we have these 2 endpoints here, and I'll use my direct selection tool. A is my shortcut key. Click on this tiny line segment or path and press delete. Press it twice to get rid of those handlebars as well. So I have this little opening, and what we're going to do is we're going to align this line segment so that both endpoints match, and I'll change my view to outline. On a Mac, that's Command Y, just so that I can make sure that the 2 anchor points overlap. You can kind of see it basically snaps into place here. Then using this direct selection tool, I'll just drag so that I'm just overlapping the 2 anchor points. And I'll use the shortcut key, Command J, to join. And when we look at our layers window, on the right side here, we can see we now have a path that looks like a circle with a vertical line. Okay, so that was pretty easy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this vertical line to split the remaining paths here. So I'm going to actually take this new path and lock it by clicking next to the eyeball in my layers window. And that will make my life that much easier because I'm going to have to trim these using the scissors tool. So I'll press C again, zoom in here, and I will click on that intersection to trim, navigate up, do the same thing here, as close as possible, and trim here. Very easy. Okay, and then we'll be doing the same thing with our anchor points. So I'll click using my direct selection tool A so I can visualize that anchor point, hover over it and click with C, scissors. So A to select, C and click to use the scissors tool, A to select, and then C to click and trim. Okay, so now what we'll do with our direct selection tool A is click on the arcs and press delete. And that will open up this space so that then we can add a vertical line to join each of these paths. So what I'll do is I will now unlock this path at the top, select the vertical line, copy, V will paste, and again I'm just going to go in here and align both endpoints. They'll kind of lock together. You'll kind of feel it click as you're using your mouse. Option, click, drag, release. I'm holding shift while doing this so that they stay aligned. And then I will select using my direct selection tool, and Command J will join. And I believe it will also be under path. Yep. So if you don't want to use the shortcut keys, this is all under the object menu, path, join. Okay, so we have our B, and the nice thing about this is these are the exact same length because we started with the same ones. You can use your direct selection tool to drag up or down. So I'll just select these objects and then I will drag up. I can hold shift and drag down to lengthen this. And then we can also use our selection tool to select all of these paths. Let's just see what's going on here. Oh yeah, to select all of these paths and Command G to group them together. So that's our B. And I'll just arrange this and we'll have two O's. Option, oh, I'm so sorry. Option, click, drag, release will give me a duplicate because we want two O's here. And then the K can be created from duplicating these line segments because they'll be the same distance as everything else. So I'll just copy these. Again, I'm using my direct selection tools to simply select these vertical lines. Command C, Command V, we'll paste them in place. And then you can decide how you want to arrange these lines. So I like to arrange them like this. And you can even group them if that makes it a little bit easier to move around. Option R will rotate. And again, you can select these endpoints and lengthen this if you'd like to. and play with this K. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do this. The K, you could also create rectangles, so you get rounded corners here. You could join these and get rounded corners. But we're still in outline mode, so let's go back into view preview mode, okay, and talk a little bit about what we can do with these different groups that we have here. Okay, so this one here, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go into my group using my selection tool, so I'll double click to go inside of the group, and I'm going to add one more line segment to close off the ends so that then my group can just be painted. So I can use K for the paint bucket tool and just click, let's pick a color, click on this to start coloring it in. Okay, and then you can also change the stroke. So if I wanted the stroke to be heavier, I could go to my properties over here and increase the stroke. Okay, but this is the beauty of using the paint bucket, right? Is that you just select the group you want to work with and then click on it to add the colors that you like. I'll just duplicate this, no need to refill it in. And then the tricky one is with the K, all right? But again, just as before, you could use a rectangle or you could simply create a group from these lines. So what I'll do is just very quickly lock these three groups here so it's easy to select. These line segments, Command J to group them together. Again, that's under the object menu. You can group. I'm sorry, Command G. And then with that, we can build some line segments to close off these areas. So knowing that we will, knowing I'll double click in here to enter the group. So I'm in isolation mode right now, and I'll just add these segments so that our paint bucket tool can fill these things in. And again, if I were, if I had more time, I would probably zoom in here and tidy up how these line segments are organized. Like, I don't want this to be visible, so I might go in and do a little bit of a mask later. Okay, but just to give you an idea, we'll exit out. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to add a line segment here too. Okay, so selection tool, double click to exit out of isolation mode, and then select your group, K again. And this isn't letting me fill in because I forgot to add a line segment here. So let's press V for our selection tool. Double click to enter the group again. And we'll just add a line segment here. Again, the way the paint bucket works, it's always looking for shapes being created by overlapping paths. So again, you just want to make sure you define those areas. So then I'll access my selection tool to double click back out of my group. And now my paint bucket should be working again. Oh, it's not selected, I'm so sorry. wonder why. Oh, it didn't make it into my group for some reason. Okay, so I just dragged it into the live paint group using my layers, so sometimes that happens if we're not paying attention. And we will adjust the stroke. And then with our paint bucket, we're going to bring our stroke forward, turn off the stroke, and change our tool settings to paint stroke. So you can access that by double-clicking the tool in the toolbar. Select paint strokes, and we'll just set some of these strokes to none. Oops. Command Z if you make a mistake. You might have to zoom in to see everything. Okay, let's not forget this. This is going to look, we want this to be set. Oops, so if you could see that, I missed something in here. I think there's something funny happening, maybe Illustrator's being a little bit buggy right there. But you can see what's going on here. So now that we have this K, let's move it to the back. Okay, and then I should go in here and edit this. So let's use our pin tool to add an anchor point here. And what that will allow me to do is to then redirect this, and then pen tool P, and I'll add an anchor point here. And then I'll just, oops, I don't know if it just added or not. Let's see. We want to see a plus sign, and then click. Okay, good. And then what I can do is select this and move this over. Okay. And that kind of messed up my paint bucket, so what I'll do is I'll go back in and redo that one. Okay. Go back to paint fills. Okay. And here is an example of what you could do with concentric or repeating lines and circles. And of course I'm seeing that some of my color is off, but at least that gives you an idea. And you can arrange how these are overlapping. I think I've locked a lot of things. So you could move these around. Sometimes it's even more interesting that way, right? And gives you like a much denser design. Command A will select all, and you could always kind of shift these around your page. And if you need to change anything, you can always use your direct selection tool to select things and just move those direct anchor points or selections outwards so they're not visible on the artboard. And again, we'll go back into presentation mode, take a look. So I hope that gives you some ideas and inspires you. And again, this is just one of many ways that you can use repeating stroke and repeating shapes and proportions to create an interesting typeface.